I like French fries and
Oh.
potato chips.
Okay.
I like tater tots.
Okay.
All kinds of potatoes.
Waffle fries.
Waffle fries. I can go on.
I even had some potatoes that were mashed up. That was my favorite. Well, that's not going to encapsulate the fucking scent and then just make it go away. What's up, everybody? This is Chad from Martin Brothers Customs, shop manager, and you may remember me from season 5 with the 65 Falcon, season 6 with the 65 Riviera. If you recognize my face, that's where you probably saw it. Got Tyler here today, and we're getting ready to kick this YouTube channel off. And we're going to do it with the first car being the 66 Nova from season 6. It belonged to Clay. That car was finished on the show as a bare metal running driving vehicle, and since then left and went to paint and got all dialed up on the outside. So we've decided to create this YouTube channel, and basically we're going to kick it off by releasing this car fully finished. We've gotten a number of questions, comments, particularly about this car. Where did it go? What did it end up like? Did it get finished? And you guys have a lot of interest in it, so we want to address that for you guys. So here it is. It's painted. It's back from Bastien's Paint Garage, and we have it in the upholstery shop because we are doing the initial stages of the interior build out. A lot of aluminum fabrication and foam fabrication going on right now. Once that stuff's kind of mostly roughed in, we're going to start doing all the wiring and engine install and mechanical stuff. So a lot to come for this car, but you know, if you guys can give us feedback on what you'd like to see, that's kind of how we're going to drive this channel. You guys are always telling us that you want to see more fabrication, more how-to, more process stuff like that. So just leave comments for us, and we can kind of build this YouTube channel around you guys. So first thing we got going on this car, well, actually, hold on. Let me back it up. Back it up. This is Tyler. He's one of our interior fabricators. Is that what you'd like to go by, fabricator?
Yeah, works for me.
Okay. And this is his project right now. He's doing the build out. Aside from some of the aluminum stuff that I've been doing, we're working kind of hand in hand right now. But at a certain point, I'm gonna disappear. He's an interior expert, and he's gonna get to do his job. So I'll let him throw down a little bit about himself and where we're at right here with this seat.
So I've been around Martin Brothers a little while. I've been behind the scenes on some of the builds. But basically this one here is big lead project for what is now Martin Brothers' own in-house upholstery shop. So this here, last time you guys saw it, you did see a seat mocked up, a few small things that were done. Since then, Mr. Clay's kind of turned us loose, told us to turn it up to 11. So we took some of that back, using those seats in a different build. But here, started up with some new shapes that we're doing on this car. We'll just jump right in with the seat. As you guys can see, probably looks a little bit stiff, a little bit angular.
Any luck, Jazz?
Negative. The north side of Cybertron's blacker than the inside of a drive shaft.
Lots and lots of sharp edges. Now, of course, on this build, the finished product, we do want it to have a very structured look, but of course not this severe. So what you're seeing here is just the basic bones. Knock out the early shapes. From here, when we start adding what we call our So foam, scrimback foam, leather on top of that, it's going to soften a lot of these edges. We leave it sharp because we don't want them to soften it too much. Now, of course, when a custom build comes in, this car is built to the customer. So all these seats, the stages we go through this here, we're going to have Mr. Clay come in here pretty quickly. He's going to do an actual test fit in the car, make sure it's comfortable, controls are in the right spot. If we need to raise, lower, bring the seat forward, anything like that, this is the stage that we want to do it in. So we'll have him come in through various stages. That way he can test stuff out, make sure the car is going to be usable for him. At that point, we just start covering them. We'll start with our patterns and work our way up from there.
You see a seat like this isn't something that's just store-bought. There's actually quite a few hours in this seat so far. You know, we get basically seat frames there's a few different manufacturers that we use, and we start with those, and then basically cut and modify those a lot of times because they don't work in the form we get them. So we'll do some work to the actual frames themselves before we actually get to building the foam out. And the foam all starts out as big 4-inch chunks of foam, and then Tyler or Ron, the other upholstery guy, will go through and start the profile shaping of it all, get it all glued together, and then actually start making the individual cuts that you'll see that kind of define the end shape of the seat. So there's quite a bit of time, and part of the shape is built because of things that are going on in the car. Like, we've got a cage in this car, there's a down bar, so if you look at the shape of this seat from the side, right where that down bar goes through, we've actually notched in the seat a little bit so that bar can run right alongside it. That's one of the good things about us having our own upholstery shop now in-house. That's part of the Martin Brothers family is we can be 100% in communication from the beginning of the build of the car and address things that will help the interior guys later on in the build, rather than wait and we just build the car the way we want to and then give it to the upholstery guy and say, hey, deal with this that we've left you. That usually ends up with a lot of like back working and undoing things to make their job easier. Things like putting supports in the floors for seat tracks. There's just a number of things, trimming off pinch welds where they don't need to be anymore, adding mounts to the floor or package tray or any other spot where you're going to need mounts or things fixtured to the body to hold, the various layers of upholstery panels that go in the car. So working hand in hand with these guys is such a money saver in the end, because you eliminate all these things that they can't deal with on their end and require somebody else to come in and fix for them. Even things like wiring, having a place for wiring, having a place for, in this particular car, we've got an ice box in the back for the supercharger. So there's a water line that runs kind of over the wheel well, and it's going to hide behind one of the interior panels. But making sure there's room for that, making sure that that's accessible if you ever have to work on it, all that stuff is important. And when these guys are here and willing to work, all of us are willing to work together, it just makes for a better build in the end.
Yeah. Saves you headache, saves us headache.
Yeah.
Honestly, it saves a lot of the budget for cool stuff.
Yeah.
Because when we're able to do stuff, we're spotting these problems and, sniping them from way ahead of the game. So
Yeah.
it honestly saves a lot more of the money for cool stuff.
Yeah, we can use that where we want to use it instead of making up for bad mistakes. Another thing that we're big on is making sure that everything is serviceable. So panels that need to be removed to access other parts of the car, whether it be stereo stuff or stuff under the dash or stuff under the center console, making sure that these things come apart and go together very easily so you're not breaking things as it's coming apart, because if we're going to be honest, it's an old car, it's a hot rod. No matter how much money you have in it, at a certain point you're going to have to fix stuff. Mm-hmm. That's just the way they go. So we primarily use aluminum, foam, and plastics in our construction. We don't use any wood, cardboard, anything that's going to deteriorate or degrade. You can pull that door panel off and put it back on as many times as you want. The worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to bend a clip or break a clip. The panel's been made in a fashion that you can take the clip right off, install a new clip, right back on the door. So really what you're left with is an upholstery job that 10, 15 years down the line, if the leather's worn or a guy wants to change his mind on the styling of the leather or the fabrics used, you can just unwrap what's been wrapped, rewrap it again with something new, and your interior's freshened up. Whether or not we use this car that much, that's going to get that aged, I don't know, but we build everything that way because we just feel that's the way it should be done. Nothing like taking a door panel off and hearing it crack, hearing the wood crack as you're pulling it off and then blowing the hole out and not being able to put a clip back in. And now you got all this repair that you have to do. So we use materials that we know are going to stand the test of time. Customers are paying us to do quality work, and that's what we deliver. We use a lot of different materials. I mean, when it comes, it's just like paint and wheels. There's just a never-ending supply of vinyl, leather, fabric, anything to put inside these cars that's trend-setting new You know, it just never ends. It seems like there's just tons of stuff out there.
You're
There's
spoiled for choice.
even with carpet nowadays, there's not just one kind of carpet you can put in a car anymore. It's not just cut pile or loop carpet anymore. I mean, there's just so many options for all this stuff, and guys are really trying to push the limits to be innovative and unique in what they're building. So for leather, on this particular car, we're going to run a mushroom colored leather from Moore & Giles. It's out of their Carlisle brand. We use Moore & Giles primarily for every leather that we, or every leather job that we do. They just deliver a quality product all the time. Great customer service. Shout out to Randy over there. He always takes care of us really good. But you know, we wanted to try to do something different in this car that wasn't black or gray or kind of fit the mold of something everybody else was doing. So we came up with this mushroom color that we thought looked pretty good with the two-tone red paint job that's on this car, and we've actually taken some of that color and applied it to the roll cage in like a matte finish, and then drug that color also out into the stripe on the side of the car. When Bastien was painting the car, Joe went up for a couple of days and laid out some artwork on the side of it. So it's got this thin pinstripe brake line that goes down. It's actually two-tone. The top color is lighter than the lower color, and in the middle of it is a stripe to break it up. So there's a design that we've used kind of in that pattern on the side, and we derived that from this fabric that we found, and this fabric actually kind of started
Spark
the whole
idea.
design really for the interior.
Yeah, really, this stuff's just super cool pattern, and it all kind of snowballed from there with the color choices, and then spilled out to the outside with the graphic that was done. So
Yeah. So we're trying to tie everything together by bringing a little bit of that color to the outside and bringing the shape of this design and the fabrics to the quarter panel artwork as well. So just kind of making the whole thing mesh together and look like it was one complete thought, and not like this giant afterthoughts of we've got colors here and colors here, and none of it makes sense. So really, I think it's gonna be a pretty unique looking interior.
yeah, I'm excited to see
I'm
some more
kind of
of that.
excited about the color. I feel like it's going to work really well, and it's different. You know, gray. Not to knock people that use gray, but I mean, it's been used
It's a great color,
forever.
but
It's great.
we're not here to.
Yeah, and
we're
it's
here to stand out.
the '90s. Anything that you bought from a dealership basically had a gray interior in it, and it fit that period well. But I don't know. We've moved beyond that, so that's kind of where we're at now. So, like with all these fabrics and materials and carpets that are available nowadays, we as the designer of the interior and car really have to walk this line of, are we getting too edgy, or is this going to be timeless, and is it going to stand 10 years from now? Is this upholstery still going to look as good or be as relevant as it is right now at that point? And at this caliber, when you're building a car that costs this much money, you don't want it to be outdated in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say is one of the key factors in probably maintaining that kind of timeless appeal and not going too far over that line?
Honestly, it's a pretty fine line to walk. I think it comes down to taste. Honestly, we've got quite a few people here that we can come together. If one of us has a great idea, maybe it's a little bit out there, we'll come together and we'll kind of have a powwow about it.
Yeah.
I think we've got a good group of guys as far as editing goes. A lot of good taste to pull from here. I mean, it just depends. It's kind of hard to spot what's really going to be kind of in everyone's car, and everyone's going to say, oh, yeah, I saw that back in 2012, that kind of thing. So
You can kind of see the trends develop if you're paying attention to what's going on in the car scene, and you can see like if a lot of people are using this particular thing, it's going to end up dating itself, because it's going to be like, oh, I remember in 2004 when everybody was like painting their cars this certain color. It makes you think of that era, and then when you see one now, it's kind of like, it was cool then, but it's not really now. It also depends on the body style of the car and the overall build too. So I think just staying away from the more fad type things, like, if you're gonna toss a lime green interior in something, this might not be the car for that. Definitely, might want to be more Lambo or something like that, European. But I don't know. That is a tough line to walk in. There's just like there's so many options with all of this stuff that you can get. It can get pretty ugly in there pretty
Yeah,
quick.
It's pretty easy to get pretty busy.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much as far as like vinyls nowadays too, with just the different things they do with them, different finishes and colors, and it gets out there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you mix too much of it, it's not going to be good.
So I think it really just comes down to editing. Really,
Yeah.
it's kind of the final word.
Yeah, and so like we
And that
like
goes for stuff you do on the outside as well, metalwork choices,
Oh, yeah.
things like that. You know?
Yep. Yeah, and the parts that you're using to finish it off too, like billet parts or whatever other accessories you've got. Whereas like on this car we got pretty basic carpet. It's just kind of a color that matches the rest of it, so we're not trying to go trendy with the carpet or anything, and kind of just letting the seats and the door panels be the show of the interior, and not, it's not going to have a crazy headliner treatment going on it. Just like I said, we'll apply all of that to the seats, and door panels make them be the star of the
Yeah.
show.
I think picking a focal point probably.
Yeah,
Picking
if
out
you've got-
which piece of the interior is actually going to be the wow factor.
Yeah,
Not
and you
trying
really-
to put that into every single panel, every single part.
No, you
so.
really don't want one thing to stick out amongst everything else, because if you've got something that sticks out, that probably it's not going to look that good. It'd be like
No.
building this car and throwing a huge wing on the back of it, and it just
Mhm.
doesn't flow. So we try to build stuff to where when you're looking at it, it all comes together, and there's not like certain pieces that stick out to you more than the rest. I think that's probably the best way to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, when we were talking before about, in the fab shop being able to work with the upholstery shop hand in hand, there's a lot of work that went into the actual bottom of the seat and relocating the actual track slides, because with it being such a narrow car and it's so low, that really causes everything to kind of come up in the car where it normally wouldn't be. So engine, transmission in the car are a little bit higher than they would have been from the factory. Not off the ground, but like basically your motor can sit this high off the ground and we're slamming the car, so the motor and stuff stays there and the car goes down. What that creates is a bigger trans tunnel, and now you're going to put an exhaust in there as well. So we've built the floor around all of that, leaving like a very narrow channel for the seats to sit in, and to get bracing on that as well. So we've actually had to shift as part of the construction of the seat, we had to shift the lower tracks to accommodate that center tunnel being so wide. So that really comes into play with being able to communicate right out of the gate, because that's something that if I didn't, while we were building that floor, have the fab guys put the structures in to be able to support the seats, they would be trying to put a seat in here, and it would be so much work for them to modify this seat to fit the weird floor pan that we put in there. So we just kind of like took care of that as we were building the floors. So it's a non-issue now, and basically it's, you got the seat frame with the tracks already done on it, and you just had to basically foam from there.
Yeah.
So that was really nice. Okay, then over here we've got the driver's side door panel off the car, and you can kind of see the work that Tyler's done. I'll let him go into detail about why it's designed the way it is, but you can see that it's aluminum and foam, and I think you got a thin layer of plastic in between the two.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
some ABS also in there.
Okay. So
Yeah,
if you want,
a little bit of a different shape, kind of flipped it around from what you normally see. A little bit of a challenge with the shape of the door bar, the position of the door bar. It's called the door bar, right?
yep.
All right.
Oh, down bar.
Down
whatever.
bar. So really with this here, we had a little bit of a challenge with the shape of the down bar. So the solution we came up with was kind of flip around what you normally see is the armrest shape. So it actually nests in there. You're going to see it here in a bit when you get a shot of the inside. But really kind of playing with that angle there. One of the things we're doing, power windows, so the window switches are going to be kind of out of the way. And then of course, rather than the standard door handle popper, what we're doing here is actually going to be essentially a trigger. So it's going to be below the grade. You're not really going to see it unless you're looking for it. So kind of a concealed door release. Pull up, pull the trigger, and door pops. But yeah, it's just some of the challenges that come up with some of the different stuff that's in the car. Not every car gets a full cage like this. Not every car has an intercooler set up mounted in the trunk. So every single
No.
one's a little bit different, a little bit custom, but that kind of gives us a challenge, but it's fun at times.
Yeah.
to try
And
to
again,
figure it out.
to be able to, for us as fabricators and upholstery guys to work together to kind of solve some of those issues beforehand, just really helps out in the end. You know, it's before we would send cars out to upholstery guys and, you know, they would be wanting to do stuff, and it's kind of hard to relay that when you're like 1,000 miles apart, you know. So being here on the premise, working on this stuff
Yeah.
with each other works great. And we don't only upholster our stuff, we do take on outside upholstery work too. And so if you are somebody that was considering sending us a car to do upholstery, reach out to us while it's in fab, and you know, we can give you a list of things that we would prefer you do ahead of time, so that when it gets to us, it just makes our job easier and it saves a bunch of money on that. And I think that's all just very important. It's like, you know, people think it's weird to start picking out colors as you're building the car, but like, it's like anything else. Wheels, color, all that stuff is part of the plan of the whole car. And you know, color can change a lot of things that you want to do. You know, you may want to paint stuff, you may want to put chrome on the car. What color is the car going to be? Well, this color would look better with chrome. I think we should paint the bumpers if we painted this color. So all this stuff, the more planning that you can do from the beginning will just help out the entire way through. You want to show in the car?
Yeah, yeah.
And hopefully Tyler sticks around with us for a while, because he is battling something internally.
Yeah. Would have been cool if like a little alien.
Oh no, not again.
Like right in the middle.
Pop out.
We don't charge extra for that. All right, so we're looking at the inside of the Nova here. First thing that I'll touch on is very important during upholstery jobs, especially on painted cars, is this wrap that we get from JK Tapes. We usually wrap all the edges of where we're getting in and out of this thing, because we're in and out of it probably 9 million times while we're fabbing all these panels and stuff. Normally when we do a car here that's one of our cars, we'll get all this stuff done before it leaves for paint. This particular car was done for TV, so it had a different kind of program going on. So it went to paint with not a lot of the interior done yet. So we're kind of working a little bit in the danger zone here with all this painted stuff. But as an upholsterer, you got to be ready for that, because most of the jobs that we get from outside come in fully painted, and we don't get the opportunity to do a lot of the fab on the front side. So first thing we do is wrap it with this stuff so that all this paint stays nice and protected. What's going on up there?
It's fine, you can't hear it.
Never mind. Okay. Then inside here you can see a lot of the aluminum that's been getting fabbed up here. So like Tyler's got his door panel on the passenger side there, and you can see the way he's cut the design in there, that it follows the shape of the door bar, and you can see that the bottom of the armrest and why the armrest was built kind of in a, you know, I guess you could say that it looks backwards from what's normally done on armrest, but to me, I think he's made it look perfect for the shapes that are going in that car. Everything fits great, and he's got the kind of angular design that goes around it, and everything just lines up really well. You can see in the top of that armrest there, we've got a foam, like roughed in version of the door pull that's actually going to be there. We'll send that and get that 3D scan, and then that's going to be a 3D printed plastic piece in the end that will get wrapped with leather. And then right behind it, there's a little slot where there's going to be a tab, and you basically pull that tab with your finger, and it'll pop the door open. So that's the interior door release. Power window switches will end up getting nested in the center console to control all 4 windows from one central location. And then we've got like a basic, the rough end of the center console, which will get foam and leather on top of what you see here. It's been sunk down to accept a kicker head unit, and then we still have to open up where the shifter is going to be at, and then there's going to be a continued back section here that's kind of like an armrest extension of that center console. In the back, we've got package tray panels that are fabbed, and then there's this angular opening behind that opening where you see cardboard now is actually going to be a speaker box that'll house 2 speakers and a sub, and that'll sit behind there as kind of like a meshed off piece. It'll be kind of a nice little feature to the inside of the interior. We're trying to get away from doing the typical like roll down, let's take up all the back, like fill it from here to the front seats and just void that whole area. We're kind of adding some detail to the inside build. And then everything will be wrapped in either leather, there'll be carpeted panels on the floor. This will probably be a carpeted section that you can access each well over there. There's lines that come through on both sides. I believe that side are fuel lines, and then on this side are water lines, or vice versa. You'll be able to access all that stuff if you ever need to service any of that stuff. But they do run from the ice box in the trunk forward, and then from underneath the car all the rest of the way forward to the engine itself.
Do you want to try and sit that seat in there, or did you want to do that or not?
We can.
Yeah,
That way you can kind of visualize the way it's going to look with the
Let me
box.
shout out to our fucking
Boom
sound and heat sponsors, and then we can throw that in there. You can see we've already started doing some sound deadening. The majority of this car is sound deadened with boom mat from Design Engineering. And the only reason we haven't done this part is because we're constantly stepping and sitting on this portion of the floor while we're building the rest of this stuff, and we're just trying to save our pants. So we'll wait till the very last minute, and we will throw the sound deadener on this section of the floor and then carpet over the top of that. We've also got DEI's under carpet light on the firewall, and that'll also be on the floor. It's kind of a grayish colored. It would be comparable to what a jute padding does, but it's supposed to be even better than jute padding. Then on the roof, we've got boom mat as well as their D mat, and that also helps with sound and heat from the top side. So basically, giving us the full insulation package so that once that AC is kicking in there, the customer can stay cool, because he is from somewhere in between Texas and Louisiana. I can never remember which side of that he's on. I think he's in Texas, but either way, wherever he's at, it's hot and it's swampy. So he's gonna need to stay cool. So we're gonna try and use that DEI stuff, design engineering, use that design engineering stuff to the fullest, so we keep this car cool. Yeah, we'll go ahead and throw that seat in there so you guys can see what that looks like.
Maybe,
Will the passenger seat fit in there?
well, I can just film it from this side if
Well, it
it'll.
won't, because the seat tracks are
Oh, you can
offset.
toss it on that side then. What else we got? Oh yeah, this car's got a harness in it. So one of the things that we talk about doing ahead of time, you can see there's tabs built into the floor here for the 5-point harnesses that will eventually be installed. So again, just touching on doing some fab stuff ahead of time so that we're not figuring out now, because now if we didn't do it, we'd have to put bolts through the floor to hold the tabs into some kind of bracing, and then you got bolts sticking through the floor that you don't want to see. So this stuff's all welded into the bracing of the floor, and ends up for a lot cleaner look.
Scary time.
Oh yeah. Like a pro.
There you go.
So leave that door crack. Yeah, you can. Yeah, that looks good. You can really see the light coming off that panel there.
So now you can kind of get a feel for what's going on as far as seat, door panel, and the rear package tray, kind of where Tyler's taking this thing. You can catch at the top of that seat how it's been notched around that door bar, and just the shape that everything's taken. He's got this super kind of angular vibe going on in this car, but you know, the dash is real, kind of more squared off. There's not a lot of real roundy shapes on this car, so I feel like it'd look weird if we started making everything super round and puffy inside here. So it's going to be a real tight, tailored fit. Your audio. And what's up, man?
Oh, sorry, I was just gonna let you know that I'm swapping my different
Okay, it's all good. What else we got to touch on?
I think that's about it right now.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess, like I said earlier, you know, we're going to be documenting this car through the whole assembly process. We're going to be catching all the upholstery stuff going on, patterning of the seats, sewing the seats. There's wiring, plumbing, window installation, all this stuff, and we're going to document all of it. If there's something that you'd like to see that you're more interested in, just let us know, and we'll guide the content towards that. The more people we get shouting out they want to see something, the more we'll address it. So really it's about you guys and what you want to see and where you want this to go from here. And then eventually we're going to end up with a finished product, and you guys are going to get to see the car that you've been wanting to see finished for a long time now. And yeah, so the goal for this car is to debut it at Triple Crown this year, September 5th and 6th in Tennessee. So we've got a lot of work to do, and we're going to get after it.